Hey class, how's it going? So getting ready to start with our digital modeling of your projects this semester. And again, just a bit of context to anyone that is watching this, maybe watching this, kind of like see where we're at right now and where we've been. So right now, as you guys can see on my screen, we have an example of the model that you guys have right now, right? And we know a couple of things about this model, right? We know that this model, it's an aggregation. It's an aggregation of a number of individually, what's the word, assembled pieces in the cut and fold method, right? So the model that we're just looking at screen, Daniela's model, it's made up of all of these individual separate pieces. And we know as well through the exercise that we can get a pattern, right, a template for each of these pieces as well, that actually started with a graphical representation of them in an isometric view, and even before that in an inventory done from the top view. Now the task, the exercise will be to bring in Rhino, the software, and utilize it to help us in fabricating the aggregated version of the model. I mean, this can obviously help us, as I'll show you, fabricate each of these individual pieces. I guess that would be the easy way to start. But ultimately, the objective is to get to, I'm not sure we can achieve a single template that is going to allow us to cut and fold this entire model on their own. And again, this will vary depending on the models themselves. But we can definitely simplify it, and rather than actually having to model and cut and fold each of these individual pieces as you guys have done, right? Can we actually start seeing this, as we see right here on the screen, as independent surfaces, right, that make up this model? For example, this one's over here, right? Here, again, here, right here, comes over here, comes over here. All right, so that's the face, actually the drawings that you guys we're producing by hand, and actually start actually taking this as a single component and do what's called an unfold, right? So we actually start kind of like seeing, what I mean, maybe this piece is kind of like flattened right there. Maybe kind of like bring this right here. It's kind of like we take that face and we'll fold it, right? And we take this face over here and we fold it over here, right? So in that sense, we create a template. And like I said, I'm not really sure. It depends on the projects, but we can. I'm not sure if we can get a single template, but we can actually condense them and have, say, rather than the 11 pieces that you guys have, and each of them had an individual template. Maybe we can achieve 3 or less templates that is going to give us a total, a larger model over here. Okay, so let's take a look at how we can start that. So the first thing that we need to do is hop onto, well, I think even before that, if you're following this right with your work, I think I would actually open up these two files the same way that I have right here, and this one over here, which are your last two submissions. And I would also have, it's possible, if possible, the model right there in front of you as well. Okay, so I'll come back and reference this. So the first thing that we want to do, or the first thing that we'll do, is open up Rhino. Okay, and I haven't updated yet. I think there's a new latest release, Rhino 8, available now, which actually seems to be on sale, which actually we should all take advantage of that. Highly recommend. Take that student discount and the additional discount that they might have to upgrade. And it's an upgrade, so it should be a reduced price than within the first investment you made. Okay, so we're in Rhino right here. The first thing that I want you guys to do is to type, as you guys might know by now, units. right? And we're actually going to set our units for this project to, let's work with inches for right now. And let's make sure that we change our display, distance display, onto feet and inches down here, and again over here to inches, and click OK. And remember, we want to do this right away, the first thing that you actually do as you start your model. Okay, and see, it's been a little bit that I don't record, so I'm right here making sure that there's no technical issues. And I have a file right here that it's kind of a, you know, organized mess that I have right here, kind of like outlining what we'll do. I'll take you guys through how to get a simple grid going on Rhino, how to draw that, how to trace your shapes, how to extrude them, and ultimately how can we start unfold them to create these templates that we can fold back again to assemble and construct your larger aggregated models. Okay. So what's the first thing that we want to do? Well, I think the first thing that we want to do is your units. The second, let's go ahead and save this as, right? Let's not make sure that we forget about that. So I would go ahead and call this, you know, Rhino aggregations. And I like to put the semester here, spring 24 for right now. And I'll put graphics 2, right? Rhino aggregations. I'll call this just the intro, kind of like the introduction to the subject. Let's go ahead and save. Okay. Next, let's go ahead and set ourselves up with a few layers, so that we can start drawing. So let's go ahead and create a layer. I'm gonna column P as in like pen, right? So pen 1, pen 2, pen 3, and sometimes we don't know exactly what we'll need them for, but I like to create them, a few at least, and we can then edit them. So the first thing that we want to do is give ourselves a grid, much in the way that you guys started with the grid, to both draw your shapes and also your templates. So let's actually turn off the grid that we actually see right here on the screen. I want to show you guys how to do that. I guess we could use that grid, and I can maybe show you guys how to set that up. But let's start from scratch and actually type grid, enter, and then up here there should be a show grid. Let's go ahead and click on that and set to no, right? And then enter our spacebar, and that grid is gone. Okay, because it's a good opportunity to actually talk about or refresh. I am assuming that most of us have some sort of experience with Rhino. Okay, but let's see. Let's go ahead and draw a line. All right, and let's go ahead and set that line to 8.5. Right, and I'm holding Shift, right, so that it constrains my cursor. Right, so we type distance, and we have a line, a segment that should be 8.5 inches, and that should right away tell us that our units are correct. Okay. Next, I'm going to do another line. I'm going to snap to this end right here. Remember your snapping tools. Your snapping tools are down here. And it's really important that we not only get familiarize ourselves with them, but that we actually use them. Okay. So I have my my tools on. Let's make sure that object snap is on. So you want to make sure that this word right here is blackened or bolded. And as you turn it on or activate it, you see all of this different end point, near point, right? All of these settings on. And for right now, I don't know. I thought there was a way to turn them all off, but I'll go ahead and, as long as you have end, you can go ahead and copy what I have and, make it look just like I have it right here. But the main one that we want right now is the end. And we're drawing a letter size sheet, right? So I'll type this 11 inches, enter. Notice that I'm not done with the command yet. I'm pressing the key shift so that it constrains my cursor, and I have that right there. Okay. I want to array this line right here in a grid way, right? So I can do a number in the x direction, and again we have our navigating tools right here. So x would be that way right there. So that's the direction that I want to go. So I want to have 12 on that direction, I think, right? And in the y direction, I just want 1. And in the z, I just want 1. All right. And then the spacing, right, from that one, right? So I can actually click here and notice how I can actually array this right here. Let's do spacing of 1 inch. So I typed 1, enter, enter, enter. Right. So again, I can double check. So I type distance from here to here. That's 1 inch. Enter. From here to here, that is 11 inches right there. Okay. And then I also want to do that on the different end, and we're going to be short over here, and I'll show you guys why we're doing this, and how to fix it. But again, I want to do an array, right? I want to select this object right here. Now I actually want to array on this axis right here. So what axis would that be? That would be the y-axis, right, versus the x-axis right here. So number in the x direction, I actually want 1, right, because we need 1. And number on the y, let's do 9. And then on the z-axis, 1. Now again, notice that it's asking me for the first y spacing or the first reference point. We want a spacing of 1, enter, right? And notice that it's going but it's going where it's going positive, right? So I pressed the 1, enter, and you see right now it's actually widened like that. What does that mean? Well, it means that it's a preview actually, because if you look up here, the command is still active. So actually that's not what we want. So but we can still fix this, and actually it's good that we run into this. The way that we can do that is we actually go back and change our y spacing, right? So we can change that, and actually I can put -1 and see if that works. You see now it gives me that right there. So, and I don't know if you noticed, right, but we started with 1, the first one, and it asked us how many do we want up here, 9. So that's including the input, the original image component that we are drawing. Okay, so I can go ahead. The reason why I drew this originally, the 8.5 by 11, why is that? Well, that's actually because we've been working with the letter size sheets, right? So that's actually the size of the sheet. But if you guys remember, let me see if I can find that that file. I gave you guys a template. Right? I gave you guys this template right here for you guys to start developing your work. Now, as you see right here, that's not really an inch. We cannot really measure it, but it's not, and that's also not an inch. The reason for that is I wanted to make sure that we had this margin, or acting as a margin, so that you can use the inside of this right here to actually draw your work. The reason for that is, again, number one, the printer is never going to print all the way to the end right here. The printer by default, by by design, has a very, very small margin, and also that actually can make your layouts wrong. So that's why I wanted us to work all inside of this margin right here. So basically that's actually what I first want to show you guys how to do. And again, so we have the grid right here. Let's go ahead and set this up to a one of its layers, right, or one of the layers that we created. I'm gonna get this a very light color, again, kind of like as a guideline. So I'll set that up okay, right? So we have P1 as a very, very light color line right there. You can select all of these objects right here. And again, I want everyone to remember about your different selection modes. So if I do a selection mode from the upper left corner to the bottom right corner, um, notice that I will only select the things that I have fully enclosed in my selection box. So if you keep an eye on my selection box, notice that the only two objects that were selected are this one and this one, but not this one, this one, this one. That's because they're actually inside of the selection box. Whether if I actually repeat that, but now from the bottom right corner to the upper right corner, notice how my selection box is actually now dashed rather than solid, right? So that's solid. This is dashed. And what happens now? Anything, regardless of it is fully enclosed or not, with that selection box will be selected. Anything that it touches, right? And that's what happens. So really anyone will work right now because I want to select everything, the few lines that I have right now, and I want to change the layer down here to this color right here. Notice that the color changes. Okay, so if I type rectangle, enter, and I click, right, I can do an @ and take a look at my command line up here. I can do an @ you want to start with the X first, so I'm gonna do 11 inches by 8.5 inches. So that's a letter size sheet. All right, I'm gonna grab another pen right here, and I'm gonna make this pen, sort of like as a guideline kind of like thing. So what I want to do now, and just to illustrate right before you follow me, I actually want to bring this grid right here, but you can actually see that I still need to capture and actually make it a little bit different so it actually is what I want it to be in the example that I show you right now, right? So what I'm missing is a couple of lines, so I'm going to type copy, and I'll bring this right here, snap from there to there, right? I'm actually gonna make another copy, enter, I'm pressing spacebar, and I'm snapping from there to there. And it's very important that you actually double check this distance is accurate. That's 1 inch, correct? And from there to that perpendicular, it's 9 inches, okay? And this is a good opportunity for us to remember and recall how to use the extend command, right? So I type extend, enter, I select the boundary, enter, oops, select boundary, and then I can click on each of these ones individually, or I can just click like that and then extends them like that. Right click, enter, right click to repeat the command, select boundary object, this right here. Now this is my boundary object right here, and actually extend all of those. Now what can I do about this corner right here? Well, remember there's the connect command, right? Select first curve to connect, this one right there, the second one, and it does that. Okay, now I'm going to activate my red pen right there. I'm going to draw a line from right here to right there, and now I'm going to draw a line from there to there. So what am I trying to do? I'm actually, if I select on any of these lines, notice that I get, grab a pen right here, notice that I get that dot right there. That dot is the midpoint of that line, okay? And the same if I select right here, this dot right there is the midpoint of that line. And if I was to overlap, right, or select all of this and type move, right, from that midpoint right there to this midpoint right there, well, what happens? I can center them and I achieve what I was after. And that's why I was trying to get this grid over. Notice that I went over. If I type distance from there to there, I have 1 foot, which is 12 inches. And if I repeat from there to there, I have 9 inches, which is 9 inches. But again, in reality, the sheet that I wanted to use, it's a 8.5 by 11. Okay, if I select that line and that line, holding shift. Notice that they share the same center point. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this right here to the side. And again, I highly encourage that you get to the habit of sort of like tracing your steps back. You never know. You never know. So I always like to leave a print of what I've done and then make a copy and then move on from there and then edit, make copies, so that I will always have a reference of where you started. So I can select this line, and then I can do a trim. Select that as my cutting object, and then this is where the selection, right, a method helps a lot, because if I do that, notice that nothing gets cropped, right? But if I do a selection from the opposite corner, notice how my selection window is what? Dashed, and it actually cuts or trims what I wanted to trim, right? So notice that I need to be careful, right, with the selection, right? Cuts that, cuts that, cuts that right there. Spacebar, enter, and I can delete this lines, this lines, this lines over here. Okay, and we're about to end up with what I originally, the original sheet that I gave to you guys to use for your cut and fold models, and we can go to print. And we're going to be using this command a lot, the print and these settings right here. So it's a good way to illustrate. So we're going to print to PDF. By default, the size should be letter size, which is 7.5 by 11, but never hurts to double check. Notice that we're working landscape because it's oriented longer on the x-axis. So I'll change that, but we can actually see how, you know, that's wrong, that's wrong. That's wrong right here, and it's cutting, trimming part of our work over here. Okay, how do we fix that? Well, let's go back right down here to it says view and output. And notice that it says window right here. Let's go ahead and click there. And notice that I have right here move. Right, so you want to make sure that you click right there on move. You snap to this end right here, and you snap to that end right there. And don't click on anything. Don't do anything. Just press enter. See, what you want to avoid is that when you go in here that you do that, because you changed the viewport, right? And that's not really what you want. All right, so I'm gonna go one more time and set it, move from there to there. I've changed probably the scale, right? So I'll do a 1:1 right here, and I'll do a letter size. So set, move. Should be from there to there, enter, and we have our sheet right here. Make sure that the scale is 1:1, which is the 100%. That's also really important. It's very important. It'll become much more important. And then I can go ahead and print, and notice that actually I have that file right there. So you can call it 1 by 1 inch grid. You can call this lecture, so that we know it's from the class lecture. And we'll go ahead and save it. And we can actually open a window. And double click on that. And that should be our file, original file. Okay? So that whenever we go to print, file, when I don't have a printer connected here, but it's really important that when you go to print this, or if you're printing it yourself, just make sure that you actually set it to actual size or 100% scale. Do not do a fit, or do not do a shrink, because that's going to mess with what? Your scale. And it might be very small in certain cases, unnoticeable, but remember, we actually need this squares right here to be a specific number, which is a 1 by 1 grid. And if we actually change this number over here, either up or down, those 1 by 1s are going to become 0.98 by 0.88 or something like that. That again, ultimately is going to give you some sort of an error. Okay, so that's important to keep in mind. Again, I'm not going to print right now, so I can actually cancel right here. And I am going to minimize this right here and minimize this right here. Okay, so next, we are going to use this grid right here so we can actually trace some of our, well, to trace all of our forms so that then we can extrude them. All right, so come back for the next part of this lecture.